Thank you all very much for coming on. I just want to iterate again. It's okay if you don't have your camera on, but if you do have your camera on, it'll be a little bit better for you, and you've made the investment to spend some of your time here. So by turning it on, we can see each other, we can laugh at each other, we can see when people are laughing and not laughing at the jokes. But we are very lucky to have Alysia here today. You know, she is an award-winning teacher, over 20 years teaching experience, but not just like teaching in general, specifically in visual arts. So she's got a degree in psychology, and I think let me get this right. Is it a master's degree in art education and post-grad with entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so post-grad, after I got my master's in art education, I decided I wanted to open up my own studio in school. And so I got a certificate from Maryland Institute College of Art for creative entrepreneurship.
So I see a very solid string in here with creativity, with education, and also entrepreneurship.
Throughout. It's true.
And not just that, a lot of head, heart, and soul in this as well. So I'm very excited to have you here for today's session. Thank you very much. And it's your birthday. Now, sometimes on Sundays, we have coaches that may be in their first years of coaching, and some have more experience, and it's all cool and welcome. But this lovely lady here has been coaching for many years, long before coming on. But recently, she's decided to upgrade her skills and get the ICF credential, you know, the big kind of coaching credential, and update her skills with the latest and greatest stuff. You know, just as times change, she's really upgrading her skills, and she's going to be stepping out, or I don't even know if I would say stepping out of the teaching realm, because what you'll be able to do in future, what she'll be able to do in future, combining creativity with coaching, is going to be phenomenal. So she's going to be stepping into a full-time coaching role really soon, and I know that's going to make a big impact, especially when you combine those years of experience, entrepreneurship, real world results. So thank you very much for coming here today, and thank everyone here for coming along. Alysia, all yours. And I'll give you the co-host as well. Sorry, I haven't done that already.
Thank you. Yeah, because I'm gonna have to share a screen, because you know me, I like PowerPoint, even though some people here don't.
And do you like questions as we go along, or do you prefer questions like at the end?
Yeah, you know what? I think questions at the end are going to be best, because I'm going to have some surprises, and we may answer some of your questions. And then at the end, we'll have time for that. So it'll be great. Okay,
so if anyone wanted to ask a phone number, leave that till the end.
My WeChat's going to be on the presentation, so I guess I've already fully enabled all.
Yeah, that's what I mean, like phone number to call you up for that, right? Yeah. Not creative coaching kinder day, guys. Get your head out of the gut. Sorry, so getting my own head in.
I have met Adrian because I'm actually not only getting ICF through his program and what he's doing, but also NLP certification. So that's how I came to be here, and I've met so many amazing people that are already on here. So I wanted to say hello to all of you. The first thing I would love for you guys to do is, if everybody in the chat, anybody who can just put like where you are and where you're from. So that would be really great. So for example, I am in China, but I'm originally from the USA. So I'll put that in. We'll see where we have people from all over. Because I know we have people from Europe, South America. I don't know if USA is on yet. Australia, Asia. Yes. Awesome. So now what you're seeing right there is you can even start looking and start to have connections with people from where they're from and where they are. So that's how we're going to start this. So I'm a visual person. I've been teaching I've been teaching for a long time. And so visuals are what I love. So the first thing I did is down on the corner, you will see Creatively Connected. There's a scan right there. If you want to scan that really quickly while I'm introducing this topic and where it came from, that will get you into a WeChat group, and anybody from this presentation can access anybody who's talking today and connect with each other as well. So the reason that this came up is because I figured out in the last year that I'm a connector. I love connecting people and things and ideas and problem solving. It's something that I have done my whole life. And only in the last year, when I started taking some of these VIA strengths tests, and when you're getting into entrepreneurship, you take all these tests about yourself, because in entrepreneurship, you really have to know yourself in order to be yourself, in order to figure out what you're going to help people with. So I found out through all of this that connection was probably the strongest next to creativity. And I've been doing research into creativity for the last 20 years, but very much so in the last 4 years. Even looked into a PhD, but I've decided to wait for a while for that. So what I found was that a lot of people talk about creativity and they talk about being connected, but they have a really hard time doing both things. And some of that comes from lack of understanding the concepts, and some of it comes from not knowing the practical ways. So we're going to have a fun time tonight. We're going to connect with each other. And I'm going to go through material, and we have lots of little surprises. So let's see the next thing. All right. So creativity is intelligence having fun. And this is from Albert Einstein. And we know he was a pretty smart guy. So that's one of the things that we have to understand, is that it goes with intelligence. There's lots of different people who think different things, but I want you to understand it's not an add-on thing. And I think most of the people I've seen on this chat know how important it is. But everybody knows that creativity is important, but they don't understand really what to do with it or anything. So this is what we're going to connect with today. You're going to learn about creativity and connection and what it can do for you. I'm going to give you practical ways, because I am all about practical. I do talk fast, but that's so we can get through everything. I'm going to throw a whole lot at you today. You can watch the video later once it's edited, and so it gets rid of anything I do wrong. Thanks, Adrian, in advance. And then you're going to be able to go through stuff, but I'll also take all of these slides and I will put them in a PDF, and I will put them into that WeChat group for you. If you can't get onto the WeChat group for any reason, then you could just shoot me an email, which will also be at the end of the presentation, and I'll take care of that as well. So you're also going to learn meaningful connections, because a lot of people have been talking to me about how they can do some of the connecting work, and then navigating challenges. Because when you start connecting more in lots of ways, there's some interesting challenges that happen. So this is roughly what we're doing. I made a mind map when I started figuring this out. There's lots of little doodles on there. And then I made this mind map here, and that says creative. And that's actually what we use for the image for the poster. I photoshopped it in. So there's a big misunderstanding. Some people think that imagination is creativity, is innovation. They're three different things. They're part of a system, but they're three different things. So creativity is when you're taking your imagination, which is all the things that are happening in your head, and you're applying it in some way. So today, we are going to be learning how to apply that in our life. Now, throughout this, I want you to know that there's two creativities that people talk about. One is the big C creativity, which is talking about creativity and spirituality. And one is the little c creativity, which is drawing and art and painting. Now, to get us more in touch with this, we have a special guest today. So I would love it if Benjamin would be willing to help us, because Benjamin is an expert in breath work. And breath work really, as I'm coming to understand it just recently, really helps us to connect to ourselves, to our creativity, and to our body. And to get us in the right spirit, now that most people are here, Benjamin, would you be willing to lead us in one of your amazing breathwork sessions?
Absolutely. How's a quick 5 minutes sound?
Sounds great.
All righty. Okay, straight into it, guys. We're going to sit up nice and tall. Have a bit of a wriggle on your chair. Find your sit bones. Sit bones are the top of the bones of the legs. Okay, so find your sit bones. Relax between your sit bones. And when you're there, just drop your breath down into your hips. So a nice deep breath in through your nose. Out through your nose. In through your nose. Out through your nose. And keep the pattern up. And every time you breathe, just imagine that air is traveling down from your top of your head all the way down to your sit bones. And then as you breathe out, it flows straight back out the same space. Deep breathing in. Relaxed breath out. And when you can, I want you to connect to your heart space. Connect to the sensation of your heart beating. You can try and feel your pulse in your head, in your throat, in your heart. And now try and match your breath to your heartbeat. Breathe in to a beat, breathe out to a beat. In to a beat, out to a beat. We're slowly going to bring up some intensity, give ourselves a little bit of a charge. So a deeper breath in to a beat and out to a beat. A little deeper. Just follow that air through your nose, down your throat, into your lungs, out to your extremities. And then as you breathe out, play that in reverse. Extremities, lungs, throat, nostril. Feel the warm air come out. When you feel that connection, just gently flicker your eyelids back open and look at that beautiful smiling face. Ah, there she is. Hello. Okay, stay connected to your heart. Try not to swallow too much. Breath is all things. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody who wants to respond and thank Benjamin or say any sensations or anything you felt in that, please feel to connect right in the chat. That would be wonderful. Thank you so much, sir. That was awesome. So now we are going to get back to what creativity is, all right? So that was what he's doing, is really connecting us more to the big C, creativity, where we're actually using this, our air and our breath and our focus, and eventually we can actually create. We're creating our moments. We're creating our presence. And this is where spirituality, big C, comes in. So we'll be working on that as we go. There's different types of creative thinking. So divergent, these are the people who go from something and they think outside a lot. They're thinking in paths. So they'll take one idea. Can somebody in the chat box just give me a random concept or idea or thing? It could be something like French fries. I don't even care. Just give me something. Let's see. A beer. All right, Adrian. This is funny because I don't drink. Okay. So a divergent thinker is going to take a beer and they're going to start thinking about, okay, they're going to think about beer. They're going to think about hops. They're going to think about flavors. They're going to think about brands. Lateral thinking people are going to think beer. How does beer make me feel? What kind of concepts can I have? How can that lead me into something else? And maybe they'll say, oh, beer kind of reminds me of soda. And how are they this is where you're starting to go out of the box. Aesthetic people are going to think, and they're going to look at how beautiful the color of that beer is and the way that it's foaming. Systems thinkers, they're going to think of, do you know how much this beer came from? Do you know how many steps were involved? How much aging? How all of that? That's what they're going to think about. Then inspirational thinkers are going to take that beer and they might say, I wonder if I could make beer from a totally different thing and then merge it with something else and come up with something new. All right. So a lot of this thing is going to be inspirational. So these are some things to think about in the future, because when you're trying to attack a problem, these are different approaches you can take to solve them. And also when you're connecting. So to be creative, there's three things. Most people don't realize this. The first thing is motivation. You have to be motivated. If you don't really have any desire to be creative, you're not going to be, which is why when you're under the gun to get something done and there's a problem, which you'll hear about later with John, you get it done. You have to be creative. It's a necessity because your motivation level goes up because it's do or die. You have to have it, right? It's very much about inquiry, curiosity, and also awareness of yourself and your surroundings. It also requires thinking skills. And these are developed, all of this can be developed, guys. So processes, problem solving, design thinking is the big buzzword everybody uses now. It's big in schools, but that's what people are doing now, okay? Expertise. This is what some people miss. The more stuff you know, the more you can be creative, because I'll explain this soon. Why? Content and technical knowledge. And that's because when you're doing all of this stuff, connecting is what creativity is important to creativity. And if you don't have that knowledge, you can't connect it to create these new solutions. So you really do need to know some stuff in lots of varied areas. So now we get to connecting. Connecting is a relationship in which something is linked to something else. That's the most basic thing. This is an image. I wonder if anybody in the chat room can tell me if they know what this image is of. Last one was a feather boa. It is, Maria. This is an actual image of neurons connecting. I'm pretty sure that they made them look lit, but they are actually neurons that are connecting. And your brain has all of these little neurons and they're constantly connecting. It's very similar to root systems on plants and trees. They connect. But in our paths in life, the way we can connect is to make sure we have as many options open in many things as possible. So when I was looking at this presentation, I said, how is it that I connect with so many different peoples in so many ways? And it's because I have learned a whole bunch of different things. So when somebody comes up to me and they say, oh, I like to kayak, I'm like, oh, I love to kayak. Oh, I love making art. Oh, I do artwork all the time. I love photography. I used to teach photography. When I have all those things, I immediately have a connection with them. And this also helps with the creativity. This is brain imaging, actual scientific brain imaging. And you can see all of these different neurons and all the different connections and how they're overlapping. So if you start thinking about life the way it is, the more options you have, the more you can be creative because you can connect them and the more connections you can make. So if you start thinking of yourself as a magnet with lots of different outreaches, you're going to be able to connect to more people and with yourself, which we'll get into. So these are just images that are scientific that can show you if you're more creative. It shows you different parts of the brain. Everything is about connection. There's the new creative mind. This is a new theory that's coming on, that there's different kinds of creativity. There's tons of theories. I could spend hours talking about that, but I won't. But there's curiosity, there's being analytical, there's being expressive, and there's being sensual. The more of those four things you can do, the more creative you are overall. So something to think about. All this will be given to you guys at the end. Now this was just, they actually were looking at a team in a business, and they did a mind map of it and noticed the connections. And what they were finding was that the people who were collaborating, the more collaborations there were, the more creative they were. And that's because they had more connections. So this pattern is throughout life. And then there's things like this. This was a diagram they did to show their curriculum and all the things that they were doing to share, and it all connects, even in learning. And this is just also fun. So you see all these things. So what are some tools? How can we go about this? When I'm talking to somebody, there's a couple of things that I noticed. This goes with NLP too. The first thing is intelligences. Now, I've put all the sources at the end of this, and ironically, this diagram comes from an article where the guy is basically saying multiple intelligence aren't a thing, like from an actual psychological journal. And it's funny because educators talk about multiple intelligences. Whatever you technically want to think of them, these could be abilities, intelligences, whatever you choose. I don't really care. What I care about is these are different ways to relate to people, all of them, and to yourself and to the world around you. So a naturalist will relate through nature. An intrapersonal is going to go through their feelings and their attitudes. Somebody who's visual spatial is going to be looking at art and how you are, and honestly, how you dress, how you present yourself. So in NLP, we learn about this kind of stuff, but it's on an even grander scheme when you're trying to connect. Or maybe you want to relate this way. Pick a wheel, any wheel. I don't really care, because all of it is just stuff. All of it is really content. It's all different content and techniques. And so if somebody comes to me and they're a spiritual person, I've studied spiritual things, I can talk to them. If somebody is emotional, I have tons of emotions, sometimes too many, I can relate to them. All of these different things allow you to reach out and to experience life, other people, yourself in different ways. So I would urge you, if you really want to be more creative and you want to connect, start making yourself ways, like a list, and maybe pick. What I do is every day of the week, I do one of the things on the wellness wheel. So one day is my spiritual focus day, one is my emotional focus day, and then that keeps me kind of balanced. And then I usually have like a to-do for each day that takes like a half hour to an hour that goes with this. You don't have to be as, OCD about it, but it works. The other thing you have to remember in this process with connecting and creativity, I love this. Scott Adams is the guy who created the Dilbert cartoons. And I use this quote all the time with my students. Creativity is allowing yourself to make mistakes. Art is knowing which ones to keep. And your life is your biggest work of art. So if you think of that, it's going to help you to get over the fears, which we'll go over a little later. So now mentally, there's different ways that I was looking at this and I'm like, well, what do I do? How is it that I connect? The first thing is a connection mindset. You have to actually want to connect. It's like whenever I meet somebody, whenever I look at something, I automatically say, how can that connect? So I was talking to Maria at an event and I said, oh, you're really good at talking about professional connections. Maybe you could help me with this in my presentation. I'm always looking for that. So I call this a connection mindset. I don't think about how different I am from others. I am always looking for the similarities. I think that this would solve a lot of problems in the world if people would do this. So when I've come to countries, I don't get culture shock, because when I go to a place, I see all the ways that it's similar to things I've already experienced. Instead of looking at all the differences, those things help me to connect to the place. And yes, then I can appreciate the differences because my baseline thinking is the connection. The other thing I equate to baseline thinking is I try to simplify everything. People who know me in the courses and stuff, most of you who know me on here, this is what I do. You will say 10 sentences and I'll bring it down to like a simple phrase or a sentence. By doing that, by simplifying things, it makes it easier to connect to those simple things. If you try to connect to all of those complicated feelers, it's too much. So if you can go in with a sense of, I want connection, and then look down beneath everything to a baseline, it's much easier to connect. So I can look at people here in China and I can see all kinds of differences. A lot of people talk about, I don't know, like behavior and lines. Let's talk about that because people always complain about that. So they're like, oh, people in the country will have problems with staying in line and all this stuff. And then I'll think back and I'll be like, yeah, I've had people cut me off in lines pretty much everywhere. I'm connecting. My baseline is that's kind of a normal thing because people kind of don't think sometimes and they want to get what they want. Okay. And then it allows me to go one step further and empathize, because those people who are probably doing the cutting in the line in any country, it's because they want something really badly, and probably worse than I do, because I'm not going to cut in the line. So then I'm able to empathize and get over it. And then I can connect to them instead of saying, oh, you're trying to cut in front of me in line. And then that's putting me apart from people. So it's a different way to think. You can choose to try it and see how it goes for you. It is a little more peaceful, I'll be honest, for me. Next, observation and reflection. If you want to connect to things around you or to yourself, you need to actually observe it and then think about it. And a lot of people don't take time to do this stuff anymore. People are like running in their life. You know what happens when you run? You don't see what's happening around you all the time. And if you're with a person and all you're thinking about is what you want from them or just to check something off of a list, you're not going to have the time to actually see and observe lots of little subtle things that you can connect with. So whenever you're doing this, really think about this and it will help you a lot. The next thing is intention. I talked to some of the people on this chat about this as well. So when I go into a networking event, networking is not easy for me. I'll go on record here publicly. I am a social introvert. I seem very, very poised and I love people because I'm social, but it takes a lot of energy for me. So when I go into an event to help keep myself grounded, I say to myself in networking, I want a person who can do this. I need a person who can do this. Universe, bring me those people. And they happen in like 5 to 10 minutes. It's actually quite crazy. But then it's awesome because I've reached it and I've connected to those people. And I've also connected to the universe who's helping me to give that. So that's a different kind of thing. So intentions are important. They're also important to connect with yourself. We just had a new moon last night. So those people were into that. Apparently, I've been told by people that this is the time that you make intentions for the month, right? So make an intention for yourself. For me, it's to actually take better care of myself because I'm running myself too ragged. Not that anybody here does that, I'm sure. So that is going to be my intention. And that is a way that I'm connecting with myself. I'm connecting with my needs, my desires. So that's intentional. Interests. The more fun stuff you do, the more people can relate with you. If you've never seen the movie Yes Man, that is an awesome, it's with Jim Carrey. And he is tasked that he has to say yes to everything. So he learns Korean and he learns all of these different things and he connects to people he would never connect with. And this really, really, really changes his whole mindset. And then in the end, when he gets to where his destiny is, all of those weird, seemingly unconnected things come together. I think those of us who are on here, a lot of us travel. I think you already know this because travel is one of those things where you are forced to use every intelligence and every kind of interest that you have to connect to that place and to that experience. But this really helps with people because if I have somebody who likes music, I do music. Somebody who likes art, I can do that. Somebody who likes working out, I like lifting weights and kickboxing. If somebody likes to be outdoors, I like hiking and kayaking. I have all of these things and interests and I have experience in them. So we can connect on that level. And then eventually I'll learn all kinds of things that are different from me, but we have that baseline connection. And then the last thing is I have on this list, there's tons more, but these are some basics. Meditation and mindfulness. Not only does this help you to be in touch and connected to the present moment and your spirit and your soul, if you believe in this, it helps you to connect to your body. Just like in that breath work, you're connecting to your surroundings. The air that's with you becomes a part of you. That is a connection. And being that grounded helps you to connect with a lot of other people, even people who don't meditate. So there's a lot more than this though. That's just mentally, because there's tons more than other ways that you can connect. So I have done something different. I have decided to share my floor because again, I'm creative. So what we're going to do now is we are going to have some professionals who are going to speak for about 2 to 3 minutes and give some examples, practical examples of meaningfully creating connections in these different areas. So, Maria, I am going to unshare, and please, you have the floor.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Alysia. Love the hat. That's a
fantastic
hat. And you should have done the whole presentation with it because it's beautiful.
I like surprises.
Good. All right. So I subscribe to everything that Alysia says. And of course, you have noticed that she's a master connector. And I want to actually to add a couple of things to what you just said on a professional way. For me, the biggest breakthrough that I had last year was that connecting with people that are different from me is actually being life-changing, because I was always very, it's easier to connect with people who you have something in common with. Like Alysia just mentioned, if you have a baseline of things that you can share, that's extremely easy. But for me, the real growth comes to connect to people that are different from me, that have different experience. So what I started doing is I'm trying to work on different projects with people who are different from me. For anybody who knows me knows that I am not a spiritual person. I'm a very matter-of-fact, logical person, although I have been connecting with people who are more spiritual than me, and I've been learning things that have been helping me in doing my work better. And I would not have thought that that would have worked, but of course it does, because we can always learn from other people. On a professional background, I now go to different networking events where I don't necessarily know some people. I've been going to some tech events. I don't know anything about tech. I don't know anything about that space, but for me going there, I get perspectives from people that can help me with my ideas. And going always in your bubble, that can be comfortable, but that's not where growth happens. And so connecting with people who have different ideas, mindsets, spirituality, points of views from you, maybe they don't have the most meaningful of connections, but you never know. So that was my tip. And go out and talk to people that you don't know, and some people that you may not ever approach, but that doesn't mean that they can't make a meaningful connection.
Yeah, and I will say that I have learned a lot. Thank you, Maria. Maria is a fantastic coach. She does a lot with helping people with clarity, accountability, and even being able to be effectiveness. I've done one of her week-long effectiveness things. And one of the things that I noticed, besides the fact that it's hard to keep a straight face while I'm looking at myself with this hat on, is that Maria has really inspired me in a lot of ways. She works with Janine. I'm not sure if she's on right now, but Janine and they do Monday morning motivation, and seeing their partnership has really helped me to be inspired in the businesses that I'm opening, and I'm doing tons of partnerships as well. So that's another professional way to connect. And that diagram I showed you earlier was like a network of teams, and the more collaborations they did, the better and stronger it was. So that's another thing professionally is the partnering. Also accountability. I learned that a lot from Maria as well. And my accountability partner is here as well. And he's keeping me in check all the time. But that idea of having an accountability partner is another kind of connection. And if you don't have one of those, I strongly recommend it. I will never not have one of those again. So thank you, Maria. And all these coaches are already in the group chat that I put in the beginning, and that will be at the end. So if you want to connect with any of these coaches for what they know, you'll be able to do that through the WeChat group, or I can email you their information. Thank you, Maria. So the next thing that we want to talk about is social. So for this, I wanted to talk to Tian Tian because she is amazing.
Hello, everyone. Because I'm also a visual person and I just thought about this topic, and I want to show a kind of drawing that I did. I'm not sure whether it can be clear. And this was a visual representative that I did last year when I think about connections. And you can see these big dots and small dots. And that's how I see different individuals in this society. And some people might have more knowledge, some people have less. And the connections line between each dot is kind of like moving our energy, moving away our knowledge. and also transforming like what we know, what resource we have, and then connecting through those lines to other people. And after I had that view towards connections, I start to think about not like what can I get from people when I go out and social and like meet new people, but I start to think, how do I make myself more powerful, more resourceful, and how can I help this person in front of me? How can I have more resource to share that everyone wants to have that line to me, to connect with me? And that's how I start to explore the topics about connections. So about 4 years ago, when I was still in Suzhou, I start to go around and asking that questions. How can I better help others? What can I do? What do I have? What can I offer? And that time, there were many, many single girls around me. And I was like, oh, there are so many amazing girls out there, but why there's not many like guys around to like meet them or hang out or have fun or meet each other? Can I make these girls happier by meeting some potential dates or whatever? That's how I started my first event group in Suzhou. And just by inviting a bunch of girls that are close with me to the group, and then start to posting, like finding all sorts of events in Suzhou that time, and then put in the group. And that's how I was like starting that event group. And later on, I explored that dating is not the main issue, but it's about meeting more people and meeting different people, going to events and meet inspiring people through inspiring topics. And then the event group just exploded by itself, and then just grow. And then more people reach out to me, say they want to join more interesting events, and more people like coming to me and say, I have events and I wanted to share. That's how I start to run that event group and start to approach people by asking, hey, do you want to find some interesting events in Suzhou that time? And also like I go to event and start to talk to the event organizer and asking them, maybe you want to share this group to more people that who might connect with you. And that's how the event group become one of my resources to share, to help others to connect by helping event organizers to connect with those people who might be interested in joining their events, but also help people around me who might interest in more in like amazing topics to actually explore what could be fun or interesting to connect those kind of people. And after I came to Shanghai, I also started this kind of group with that kind of mindset of how can I help people with this group? How can I connect different people with different needs through those kind of resources that I can organize with myself? And today that event group also just become 500 people full. And I'm starting a second one to contain and entertaining friends around me, help to connect through this way. And that's the mindset I want to share through this is how can we help each other? What can we offer while making that connections? Yeah.
That's awesome. And everybody, any of these presenters who talk, feel free to silently clap. Round of applause goes like this. Or you can actually put something in the chat and everybody can see. Tian Tian also does, she's written articles. She does a lot of stuff on WeChat, and she connects through social media as well. So she's really versed in this kind of stuff. So thank you. And it reminded me of a joke. Why did the couple not go to the gym? Because some relationships just don't work out. Sorry, I'm known for bad jokes. By the way, connecting words is really fun as well. All right, so very beautiful. Exactly, Danielle. I agree with you. Beautifully said. The next person we're going to talk to is looking at the personal side of things. So, and for that, we're going to talk to Sarah. So Sarah is an intuitive coach. So go ahead, Sarah.
Thank you, Alysia. So I love this topic of creative connection. And the way that I incorporate this is I help people creatively connect to their intuition using a whole lot of different techniques to help them gain deeper insight into an issue, a problem, to help them find resolution to a problem. And I love what you said, Alysia, about how creativity is applied imagination, because imagination is also a key tool to really connecting with your intuition. So I'm going to give you an example of one type of intuitive technique which I use, which are intuitive cards. So with intuitive cards, a person will set an intention or perhaps ask a question and then draw a card. And these types of cards have different symbols, images, words, and it's a way for people to really creatively connect with their unconscious. And so I'm going to give you a real life example of this and show you two cards that I drew. Because I do this with myself all the time. I ask questions, and I will say that when I've done this, the cards can really be dead on and give you very big aha moments. So mine was actually, I was in a relationship that I was getting some mixed messages, let's just say from the person that I was with. I felt that the relationship might be coming to an end, but my conscious mind was just not really ready to accept that. I think my ego was clinging on to a little bit the identity of, related to thinking this was a life partner. But at any rate, so what I did was I asked the cards, what do I need to know about this relationship? And I drew two, which I'll try to show you. One was from the traditional tarot. It's a card called the Tower. And I don't know if you can see it. Basically, what's happening is you have, it's actually a couple who are jumping out of a tower that is on fire. So for me, this really was a big aha moment because it was my relationship that was going to flames, but it was also my intuition. I had this creative connection to my intuition, and I was able to see that this was also my psychological, the way that I connected was I saw this card as my psychological tower coming down and just this illumination and really this moment of seeing things as they are. And so, this was not easy, but then I drew a second card, which was, this is an oracle card, so it gives you a specific message. And this card says, letting go. And it's a card of a brunette, who is by herself and in nature. The way that I creatively connected to this card was through a feeling, because I felt actually very calm and peaceful. And this was how I really knew, I think, connected to my subconscious and really understood that this relationship was over and it was a good thing. So that's my story.
Thank you. And so Sarah works with people sometimes with these cards too. Yes, round of applause. And this whole idea that your subconscious is in control more than other things, this is part of creativity and flow, allowing that subconscious to work. So you can do that with cards like she's talking about, but there's even things like this. This is one I use with clients. This is Creativity Whack Pack. And it has all kinds of creative solutions of things you can do. So you can use your intuition. Even if I just look through these quickly, my brain has stored it. My brain knows what the cards are there. And if I say, okay, what do I need to make this presentation better? Get out of the dogma house, apparently. So sorry, I guess. So there you go. So I would read this, and that's my subconscious, my intuition, helping me to say, there's something that you're missing that you're not looking at. So this is, and there's all kinds of different creativity cards out there, all kinds of intuitive cards. If you want to know all about intuitive cards, Sarah knows them and has most of them, actually. So thank you for that. Great. Next realm. Yes. So this goes right into the next topic. It took me a long time to understand spiritual connection, because there's intuition, there's spirit, and I had a lot of things that I was dealing with. And then I started learning about how science went with it, because I love science. And the person who is the best at this that I know is Johnny. So Johnny is also an amazing coach. He's doing a lot of really amazing things in AI and virtual reality. So Johnny, if you could please come forward, we would love to hear your insights.
Thank you, Alysia. Thank you, Adrian, and the whole group. Alysia asked me to talk about quantum mechanics 2 minutes. Now, what is quantum mechanics? Well, it is the latest type of science. Some people call it weird science, because it is not science that is causal. Like, if you do this, then you can prove that. It is basically science that is based on connection, intention, desire, and resonance. So time and space do not exist. And I know this sounds very weird. The mathematics behind it is even more complicated, more weird than you can imagine. But the application of it is actually quite fascinating and simple. So I'm going to just give you a few examples of how it works in reality to give you an idea on what you could do with it. I start with bacteria. The oldest bacteria in the world, for example, we now know they use quantum mechanics to protect themselves from oxygen. So they have an intention. They work with electrons to protect themselves from oxygen. These are the very ancient bacteria before there was oxygen in the world. Another example is today plants. Plants use photosynthesis. In order to use photosynthesis, they use quantum mechanics, again, to capture the energy from the sun. This is a second example. Now, a third example I want to use is the neurons. And the neurons, they are not only in the brain, they're also in the heart or in the gut. They have synapses, there are microtubuli in there, and there's also quantum tunneling in there. Now, this is becoming very fascinating because this quantum tunneling, as we have observed scientifically, is what happens when you are being conscious, when you are being aware. And from the principle of quantum mechanics, we actually know that everything is potential until it is observed, until something becomes real. So your awareness actually creates reality. Now, this is not something that most of us are aware of because it happens in the unaware state, in the unconscious. The beauty actually is that you can put, as I mentioned earlier, intention, desire, and resonance in there. And it comes from connectivity. So you can actually use this to connect with your inner self, with your body, with other people, with reality, and by using certain specific ways, influence that. And the magic happens because, as I mentioned, there's no distance doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. This is when you can start explaining why people have intuition. This is why you can explain why mothers can start lactating when the baby needs food, even when they're kilometers away. This is why you have extrasensory perception. This is why some people, for example, in the Qigong can move things. This is, for example, how we in our body can actually call upon energy, because this is the same principle that is happening there in the mitochondria. But with the unconscious, we can actually tap into that. And if you look at very, very ancient knowledge, you can actually see that there's a lot of wisdom where people instinctively, and some even more procedure-wise, know how to use this. And that is what I found most fascinating. So I saw you put it on the spiritual. I didn't know that, but you could say it indeed is spiritual, because if there's one thing that quantum mechanics represents, it is oneness. It is like everything is together. And once you realize that, you can find ways to resonate with the other, which actually is you.
Thank you. And now you're seeing how everything is connected. Very good. Thank you. So one last presenter, because we have to be cognizant of the time, that talks about how we're all connected with quantum mechanics. And that leads us to global connection. And for that, I'd like Gilbert to come forward. He does a lot of things with actually sustainable aquaculture. And he also does a lot of things connecting people in motivational speaking. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alysia. I hope you all can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, good. So yeah, like Alysia said, I'm in the scientific world. I'm basically a fish biologist, but then I also love to write creatively. I write about relationships, and then also generally I motivate people through my writings. Now, a practical example, that's got to do with me connecting with people and people connecting back to me is the content I put out there. I've made a lot of friends. I've been able to connect to so many people on different levels, and most importantly, or let me say, the number of them that come up has to do with relationships, be it relationship with boyfriends or even wives or husbands and all that. I've been able to connect with people on that level by putting my content out there. And thank you very much for all the speakers before me. Everything put together, it's all about relationship. it will even shock you that people have a strong relationship with their social media accounts, you know. So everything that you put out there, somebody's going to see it and they will connect to you on that level, be it a relationship content you put it out there, or if it's a research article. Because I've had people connect back to me and be like, oh, could you help us with what you did for us? And could you help us with what you put out there? You know, we're trying to put up some chemical equation or something like that. Yes, so I get to connect with them on that level. And then again, relationship-wise, one of my friends was going through a hard relationship with her girlfriend. And one of the things I put out there made him realize the reason why he even started that relationship in the first place. And today they are happily married, right? And so we should be motivated enough. We are on a motivation platform again. And awesomely, we have, you know, the beautiful Alysia talking to us on, you know, creative way of connecting with people. And so thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. So now that we have that global connection, I just have a couple more points and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. So the last things that we wanted to talk about here, get this going. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about, we're going to talk about some of the positives and some of the challenges this is going to have to go through. So now that we've gone through all these different ways, this is what we try to do, what happens and what we can do. All right. So a lot of times we're going to be failing forward. Now, this is where we start talking about things that can be challenges. When you start connecting like this, there are things that you need to be ready for. You're going to have to be flexible. There's going to be changes happening because the more you connect, the less you understand, the less the things you think are going to happen. Okay. You have to be in a creative flow and you have to understand that connecting takes time and maintaining those connections takes energy and time. You might deal with some overwhelm. The more you connect, you have tons of people, you're going to have to prioritize your time and your energy. You're going to have good boundaries. Otherwise, you're easily going to get overwhelmed. And you're going to have to overcome some fears, vulnerability, feel afraid to fail, and one that I still struggle with, which is fear of attention. Okay, so these are some things to look out for. And there are some positive outcomes. So there's possibilities, confidence, and resilience. John Azo, are you here? Is John at his screen?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. John is going to talk to us and give us a quick example of overcoming a challenge to get a very good positive outcome. So please take it away.
Hi, guys. Thank you, Alysia, for having me, and happy birthday again. So as many of you may know or may not know that I do trading. So I am in the trading business since pretty much long time. In trading, working with factories was very challenging because you know that the factory mentality is like, just go straight. So the first example jumped to my head. I had like 300,000 t-shirts. I need them to be delivered. And it was right before China New Year. Everything was going okay. Everything was going smooth until I was going to QC the production to ship it. On the logo, between the lines, the factory make a simple mistake. Instead of qualifier, they wrote olifier. So they forgot the small stick of the Q. So I end up with 300,000 t-shirt of olifier. And for sure, the client freaked and he started shouting, screaming, like, we have like 1 week to ship them. We need to redo all of them. And it's impossible to redo 300,000 t-shirts in a week because you cannot reprint on the t-shirt. Back then it was like 10, 12 years ago. You cannot reprint on the t-shirt. So I was like, let's get it done. I went to the factory. I stayed really late in the factory to figure out how to make the olifier qualifier, you know? So I tried the corrector pen. I tried the markers. None of them worked until I tried the cotton buds, you know, those sticky, you clean. Yeah, those things. So we dig them in the same ink color and then we corrected by hand from olifier to qualifier, and it worked, and the customer didn't even notice. So I am one of the person that I perform best under stress. Whenever you are stressed, all your creativity, it will come out and you will find a way. And yeah, that was it. I saved it by trying many different things. Just you need to step back, don't panic, don't freak, and see your options. Look through your options and then start one by one until one of them will work for sure.
Awesome. Round of applause for John and saving 300,000 t-shirts. So that's an example of creativity and connecting the idea of that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Adrian. We can't hear you. You're muted. Adrian, you're muted.
300,000 cues.
That's a lot of R&B right there.
I was thinking 300,000 cues.
I don't think it was John doing that. So this leads us to this. Go ahead, John.
I had 3 factories with their families, come together to get them done. I had to do what I had to do. I need to get it done. I have deadline.
There you go. Motivation. Motivation 101. Good for creativity. So this is to lead us to this. I love this quote. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So as we move forward in this new life, in this new world with everything happening, I want to make sure that you all keep creatively connected to each other, to yourselves, to the world. Understand that you're more connected than you realized. And there are 2 QR codes here. One is for my private WeChat and the other is for the group from this. So if you want to connect to everybody in this group, whoever wants to join, it's over there. And I will open it up to questions. And I stayed exactly on time. So anybody have questions? If you don't like to talk in front of people, which I totally get, then you can write it in the chat window. But if you want to, you can raise your hand. There's a little icon that says raise your hand and Adrian can call on you, or you can even just turn on your audio and one of us will see it, or just start talking.
Just start talking.
Or if you have any comments about anything that happened. Yeah.
Hi, Alysia. It's me, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi. I'd like to know, how do you use that in coaching sessions? Can you give me an example?
Oh yeah, I use it I actually use it all the time. I've been doing a lot of collaboration sessions. I do a lot of the mind mapping for the connections to show people. And the studies that I've done in creativity about what creates a culture of creativity, what you need in order to be creative, I try to get the situation and the environment as good as I can for the client, making sure that they feel comfortable, making sure that if there's music on, but usually something that has no words because that interferes with the parts of your brain that are creative, even with my students. I recommend lo-fi, L-O-F-I. And then doing this cards with the creativity, I found that this really helps, because if you have something like this, like a prompt, and they have a problem and they're trying to be creative, if you have them just pick one of these, even if that's not the strategy they use, they start understanding that there's creativity strategies. A lot of times clients that I coach, they think that creativity is this some magical gift that they have and it looms over their head. When you start to break it down into strategies, the creative connections start to happen. Another thing I do is I have clients brain dump. So I will have them take I always have big pieces of paper when I coach every time, like an A3 size, like double the normal size. And I always have colorful pens because that brings out their inner child and everybody loves to use colorful pens. So then they have these colorful pens and I say, okay, I want you to brain dump any words that come to your mind about this. If they're really stuck, they do that. And then you take colored highlighters and you have them pick out some things that they notice that are in common. And you have them highlight it with the same color. And then you'll start to notice the patterns. You'll probably notice 2 or 3 main things. And you might say, oh, your problem is this, this, and this. And then you can start creatively brainstorming strategies against it.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Anybody else? I hear crickets chirping. Should I turn on music?
There's a question in the chat, Alysia.
Oh, good. I just saw all the pens, but that's not the question. Okay.
Yeah. Question.
What is the advice about when we try to connect with someone and then we don't find anything that they're interested with? If you can't find something that can connect you with somebody, it means you're not looking hard enough. There is always something that can connect you, okay? But you might have to go more basic, okay? A lot of people work on this level of what they do and all of these things. It might come down to experiences. Another way to connect with people easily is start looking at favorites, right? What's your favorite color, right? By the way, 60% of the population, it's blue. So if you like blue, you're gonna connect to at least 60% of the population in the world. But you look at this, right? You can look at favorite foods, favorite places to go. If there's somebody who's an expat, they like to travel. They're probably like 90% they like to travel. So then you talk about travel. So my idea is when I find somebody I'm having a hard time connecting with, I go down to basics. I go down to favorites. How about, do you have any brothers and sisters? Right? And that also gives you like a personal connection. Or, you know, just start talking about something, say, oh, you know, I had this situation with my brother. Oh, do you have any brothers, sisters? And then go from there. Again, that's the baseline thinking. Did that answer your question, Disney? I can't actually see you on the screen. So you have to say yes or something in the WeChat or say yes out loud. Okay. Oh, if it's 80%, I thought it was 60%, but there could be new data. So that's good. You know what's a great networking question? To get to know people and connect with them. Like, what is your background? Is that what you use, Maria? Are you asking for a different one?
No, it was a suggestion.
Yeah. You can say what is your background? Sometimes though, I like to be fun and creative, right? So when you're connecting with people, sometimes asking them questions that's not related to what they're expecting gets you a more authentic answer. So for example, I was at one speed dating event. I'll never go again. I was suckered into this to help my friends. And I went to this thing and these people kept asking me the same questions. And finally this guy sat down and I'm like, I'm so tired of the same questions. And he said, yeah, me too. And I said, do your socks match your outfit? And he was like, what? And I said, do your socks match your outfit? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, thank you, but I match everything, so this isn't going to work out. And then we just started laughing, and then we connected, even though we knew we weren't going to connect, but we connected. So it can be ridiculous. So I think that that's good, but I also think asking them things that aren't related, sometimes in networking, can get you to a different place faster. Because everybody at those networking events is like, oh, what do you do? What's your business? And it gets tiresome. Rosny, can we be creative when we are feeling stressed? Yes, because let's take in point John with 300,000 t-shirts. You bet your bottom dollar that man was stressed. And the key is though, that you take the stress and this gets you to a point where you feel better about it. Now there's some positives that I put up there, but one of the things I wanted to say is when you feel like you're creatively connected and you have done this over and over, you naturally build confidence. So one of the reasons why I'm confident is because I know if I have a problem, I'm going to creatively find a way to fix it. I know I'm going to fail. I know I'm going to mess up a lot, but I trust that from all of my experience and connecting, I'm either going to have a connection that helps me or I'm going to be able to creatively get out of it. And that's the way that you transform the stress from hindering you to motivating you. And I believe that John has that same mindset from what I know of him. So I would say, yes, you definitely can be creative because stress can create motivation. Yes, Nick is saying to being genuinely interested in people makes you more interesting. But if you're networking just to get something from people you network with, don't bother, and ask them what will allow people to talk to you. I agree. I will tell you, one of the things that's big on this is I really do want to know about people, because I think that people are fascinating, because again, I'm looking for connections. If it's a creative exercise in connections, everybody's interesting because it's like kind of this little game you play in your head, and you really do want to know them. And sometimes the weirdest stuff happens. Sometimes the weirdest connections. I know a man who does finance, and he was doing finance, and he happened to mention that he used to be an actor. Well, now he's doing all kinds of things to help people to learn how in business, how to do performing and do acting and improv workshops to help them do presentations at work. All from a conversation about acting that had nothing to do with what they were talking about. Yeah. Okay. So Rajni. Okay. Rajni, can you hear me now? Okay. So Adrian, if you could quick type something to Rajni that I can talk to her on WeChat afterwards, that's fine, because everything else is okay.
I will. And Ben and Johnny have a question as well.
Who is first, Ben or Johnny? Do you need to rock, paper, scissors for it? Oh, Johnny won. Yes. Okay, that was great. Good connecting, guys. Johnny, what's up?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on what I heard just now. Being genuine, authentic definitely will allow you to connect with other people more easily. So that is the first thing that you should know. Being professionally prepared on knowing who you're going to meet is going to facilitate the way of connecting with people there as well. But in general, just going inside and being who you are is allowing to make connections that you can't even explain. Just what you said, sometimes things just happen, right? So for example, if you want to find the right kind of person, trying to find a person doesn't work. For example, if you are a flower, the best thing to be is just to be the flower that you are, as beautiful as you can be, because the bees will come, they will see you if you are radiating being a flower. In the same way, if you are a bee and you want to find a flower, collect the honey, just be as much a bee as you can be. Now, this sounds very philosophically, but this is something you can actually methodologically do by tapping into your intuition, by following certain processes. And this is when actually you can find people out of nowhere and you will have not any understanding of where it's coming from, but it's absolutely real.
And I totally agree. And I think that piggybacking on that, one of the things happens when you are actually still and you are okay within yourself, you have to focus on what you want with attention, but not how you're going to get it. Right? So if I go to a networking session and I say, I need somebody who's good with Chinese social marketing, it might not be somebody I meet there, but somebody I meet there may somehow see something later and then connect me to that person, because the universe is smarter than I am. Right?
Yeah, so
right.
the last step, you always use resonance. In the beginning, use intention, but in the last step, you use resonance.
Thank you, Johnny. Genius. Johnny Genius. That's what we'll call you now, Johnny Genius. Okay, Benjamin?
Alrighty. I have this creative bug in my head, and it's been there for a long time, but it lives right next to a procrastination bug. What's your advice on reining in some creativity and actually getting some shit done? Because I need to do that.
Well, one of the big things in this whole thing, you saw the motivation, right? And as we've learned in NLP, if the procrastination is your best choice, then there's a reason for that. I find a lot of people who aren't creative, it's because of one of two things. Number one, they're afraid that their stuff's going to be crap. Okay, that's number one. The second thing that I find is that people have this myth that think that they have to do something really amazing to be creative. If I have a problem, I could pick up one of these cards, go with my intuition and use a creative strategy. And within 3 minutes, I've used creativity and I'm done. So maybe for you, it's just starting with little strategies. instead of having a whole chunk of time. Because if you have little bits of creativity, maybe you say, I'm going to write down or draw something for 5 minutes. It's a lot easier not to procrastinate. And then as you start to like that, it's a lot easier to do bigger chunks of time without procrastination. Do you think that that would be something that might work for you?
I will let you know. That sounds reasonable. Yeah. I'll have to give it a shot.
If not, I'll have my accountability partner work with you. Golden Seed, I think, had their hand up.
Okay, so are there any levels of connections? Because we know that there are 4 levels of communications, right? So cliche, like, and then opinion-based, and then emotional-based, and then transparency, right? So all the communications or all the connections are to like deepen the relationships, right? So are there any like levels of connections that we can tell we can move from one to another?
That's a really interesting question. I think that some people feel like there's deeper connections when they have more of a spiritual kind of connection that goes with the energy. Some people believe that. For me, I see everything like a web, everything. So for me, there is no up, there is no down, there is no left, there is no right. It's just one circular web. Everything is connected. So the hierarchy for me, the only thing that I worry about whenever there's a hierarchy is that hierarchies can create condescension and division. Having levels, having those kind of things automatically set your mind up for boxes. And the whole thing about creativity is eliminating those. So my suggestion to you would be, yes, and the reason we use that is to make it easier, right? We use those connections and those levels to make it easier to think about. But in the end, that's just something we make up in our head to try to make it easier. So my suggestion is, don't worry about the level of connection, just worrying about connecting as much as you feel you should with the person, using your intuition or the world around you, and until you get to a place where you feel really happy with it. And that's probably the deepest connection you can have. And if you can be happy with somebody on any level, even for 5 minutes, you've already made a huge connection. Does that answer? It kind of answers in a weird way.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alysia.
Oh, there you go, Adrienne. Heterarchy rather than hierarchy. Yeah, I like that.
I have a question.
Yes.
So many friends came to me, asked me how do they social connecting, networking with other people, while most of them are super shy to even start a conversation with a question, even an awkward one. Do you think introvert personality will affect how well we connect with other people?
Yes, actually, there's a book, Quiet and Quiet Power. I don't know if anybody's read those, but it's actually talking about introverts. And this is a really big thing that's been happening because a lot of introverts are becoming really big entrepreneurs now, especially with the digital world. And our school systems haven't been honoring them at all, right? I mean, kids who refuse to raise their hand and speak out are getting low participation grades. So it's something to be cognizant of because it's a socialized thing. So what I would suggest for those people is if you're introverted or if you know somebody who's introverted, then you have to find an environment or a situation that sets up a way for them to connect that isn't direct. They need indirect. So for example, if I'm in another country, like when I was in France one time, I was by myself and I was like, I'd really like to connect with somebody here, but I'm pretty crap at French. So what am I going to do? So I sat down on a bench and I started to draw. And all of a sudden, people started coming over, looking at my drawing and talking to me. And it was only a couple people at a time, which I can handle. And so I think that we need to set up strategies for introverts, but I also think we need to have things set up for them. So if I have like a networking event, sometimes having a name tag helps because, but not just a name tag, have something they can connect with. What's your favorite food? Or what's the favorite place you've been? Because then they don't have to come up to somebody can see them and be like, oh, I really love going to Sao Tome. I'd really like to go there. So let's go there, you know, and then those two people can connect. So I think it's the strategies that we use to help those people, but also honoring who they are, because there's nothing wrong with them. And that's the big problem we have, is that we expect everybody to be outgoing all the time, and that's just not realistic. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you for the advice.
You're welcome.
And if I can just throw something in there, a lot of entrepreneurs will often go and get the books. And I got the book you recommended in there, Quiet and Quiet Power. So a lot of entrepreneurs will go and get the book, and they order the book online, or maybe the book takes a couple of weeks, and then maybe they take a month to read it, or it ends up on the shelf. And if they do get it and read it, you know, reading may take hours or a couple of weeks to read the book. And sometimes like that, you're better off just getting a coach, just talking to one of the coaches in here, and perhaps they can share a strategy and maybe do some NLP to put the strategy in, or map the strategy from somewhere to somewhere else. And a good coach, like many of the guys in here, might be able to fix that introversion challenge in 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, instead of spending all that time getting the book. Entrepreneurs will typically get the book, and they spend so many hours, when they might be better off just having a half-hour session with a wonderful creativity coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thank you for Maria for sharing. I think there's probably a lot of introverts here, and some of them are probably the ones not asking questions right now. Anybody else? Questions, comments? I'm fine with you asking questions of some of the presenters who were here too, if they don't mind, because they were brilliant as well. By the way, if you didn't notice, the strategy there was, I've never really seen anybody on these platforms do that, like share so many spots and stages with people, but it was my way to be creative and to show you the connections I made with all those people and how we're all connected within connection. So that was actually another strategy. So feel free to connect with them and ask too. Oh, if it's a cost issue when it comes to choosing a coach versus reading a book. Yeah, you know, I understand that. But if everybody could learn just from books, then we wouldn't have teachers and we wouldn't have coaches. So sometimes we need somebody to help translate those books and those knowledge and creatively link them to action. So I think sometimes it is a cost thing, but I think the value of the human connection to work through this stuff is really important. And Chris is raising his hand? Yes.
Apparently I have a few people who are interested in what I might have to say. But I remember once upon a time, somebody whose name sounds a lot like Hadrian, but I can't really remember. I think he once said that there were people that had introverted tendencies and extroverted tendencies, but there was no such thing as an introvert. And I think that is something which is probably worth mentioning, that labels are fantastic, but they're so restrictive that some people might feel like they're an introvert sometimes, but just because they feel like it sometimes doesn't mean that they are an introvert. And for those people who do feel like, oh, I'm an introvert, sometimes you may have introvert tendencies, but sometimes you may not. So don't stick yourself in this little societal expectation box, because you're really not just one thing.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, a lot of us, it's true. This goes also with the hierarchy thing, right? The hierarchy is ways that we simplify things. And in this case, I feel like a lot of people who are introverts and extroverts, for me, when I saw this whole idea of social introverts, I connected with it, because then I realized that there were other people who might have the same tendencies. But you're right. You need to take that as something that's a guidepost and not the path. Something that you can look at and say, okay, I can relate to people who identify with this, but it doesn't mean I am this, I think. But correct me if I'm wrong, Christopher.
You're never wrong. I just have different opinions sometimes.
So that's true. Don't let yourself, honestly, this is creativity. Never let yourself be pigeonholed into a box. I spent my whole life breaking down boxes people have tried to put me in.
Well, I'm not going to spend my life being a color.
You are wearing blue, though.
I know. I'm mixing it up, Adrian.
That's from a song. Those of you guys who don't know, I'm not going to spend my life being a color. Yep.
Michael Jackson, black or white.
Yep. There you go.
And by the way, this Myers-Briggs, like the ENTJ thing, what happens a lot with that as well? With the Myers-Briggs, the first part, introversion or extroversion, right? So, you know, you get a high introversion or a high extroversion, but when you do the test, you're either here or there. But in reality, a lot of us are probably in the middle. But the test doesn't do that. Most tests give you E or I, but what about if you're in the middle? So you actually need to get the percentage. Like according to the test, are you 51% one way or are you like 90% one way? Because, you know, if you're 51% or 99%, that's where it makes a real difference. Someone that's 99% extroversion is an extrovert. Someone that's 51% is maybe in the middle, but the test will say it's, just be careful with those tests. Don't let them stop you.
And this is a thing, because I've taken psychology and I've taken that Myers-Briggs, and one woman gave me the test twice within 4 months. And she laughed. She's like, this is statistically not supposed to be possible. She said, you flipped on every single category within 4 months. That's not supposed to happen. And I did. I completely flipped. And then I took it a couple of years later and I flipped again on some of them. And so to be honest, it is the percentages and things like that. And a lot of us are kind of in between and have those tendencies. But those tests are really, again, just supposed to be markers. They're just supposed to be some way to get information. It's just a way of translating the information of who you are, which is so vast that no test can ever pigeonhole it and ever really indicate it. It can just give you little tiny insights or flecks into some of the things, flecks of insight to see what's there, but it is not exactly what you are. It's just giving you a tiny little lens of a tiny part of who you are, and all of that can change. Yeah. Tequila. The answer is tequila. Yeah, like a self-audit. There's a lot of those things. I mean, people really love to know about themselves. So, I mean, look at Facebook quizzes. Do you want to know what kind of animal you would be? Do you want to know what famous painter you would be if you were a famous painter? People love that stuff because they want to understand themselves better. And sometimes they want different lenses to do it. But it doesn't mean that they necessarily are the incarnation of Vincent van Gogh. Anybody else have any questions or insights? I want to, before, because I know it's getting late and some people may want to go soon. I just want to say thank you so much for being here, for being present. So many people with their cameras on, so many people asking questions. This is a topic that I really believe a lot in, and I really feel like it can help everybody. And I really hope that it helps you. And please reach out and on the WeChat group or to me, if anything from this helps you, I would really love to know that, or somebody else.
Can I just ask Alysia? I've been on the same course as you, and I've watched you talk, and I've watched you laugh, and it's amazing. Where did you get your presence from? Like, you're naturally spoken. I am not naturally spoken. I'm breaking up as I speak right now. You don't break.
I think that she, like everybody, gets her presents from Christmas.
Actually, today was my birthday, so I got presents. No,
Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, you know, it's really interesting. I used to be a singer, a professional singer, and I did jazz and blues and soul. I stopped because I don't like the attention. This is a lot easier on this platform because there's not a lot of people around me because I'm very connected with people, so it's a little harder for me. I seem more calm, but I was nervous, you know, until things happen. But when I start getting into something, like for me, this presentation became like a creative flow. And then when I get into that creative flow, I stop thinking about anything else and I just do it. Sometimes when I'm talking to people, it's almost like a channeling. It's just channeling that energy. I don't know. That's where it comes from. But I think the other thing is, like I said about creativity and confidence, I have screwed up so many times. And I've been a teacher for 23 years, right? And I've been up there and had kids say horrible things to me and had to be ready to come back. You know, I've had to do that. And so what my friends say now is that I've become a bouncy ball. The harder I get pushed down, the more I flatten, and the quicker I go and the higher I go when I come back up. So it's a resilience thing. So if you're presenting and you get used to this, Gilbert would be great at this too, because Gilbert is really great at presenting. This comes to a part of your practicing, you get in a flow. And I think purpose is important. So when I was performing, I told the guys, I'd be shaking the whole time. I mean, I do 3 hours of singing in Shanghai and I'd be shaking the whole time. I'm not kidding you. What got me through that was knowing my purpose. I was there to make music and be creative. I was there to help people to be happy. I was there to create an experience. If I could keep that in my mind and have my creative flow going towards that purpose, all the other crap about myself and my ego just fades away.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if Gilbert is here, I don't know, he's got this picture where he's just kind of looking like this, but he's a member of Toastmasters and they do all kinds of practice with this. So there's organizations that actually help people with this as well. I haven't done them, but Gilbert is kind of a natural, but.
Thank you for a very lovely presentation. I really love the creativity coming out. And I was like, hey guys, I organize these things, but I had no idea. I had no idea what you had planned. I had no idea.
I did it on purpose.
Thank you very much. Great points. Really well done. Now, I'd like to take a moment. Maria, as Alysia mentioned, Maria has been partnered with another coach, Janine, and their work in Shanghai has been a phenomenal example of collaboration. And Maria really is magical with networking the coach as well. So, Maria, you're talking next week. Overwhelmed to Clarity?
I am, yes. Someone roped me into it. So I'll be speaking next Sunday at 6:30 p.m., I'm guessing.
Same time, same place.
Same time, same place. The title of the talk is From Overwhelmed to Clarity. And I really wish that a bunch of people from here, if you would like to join, I'll be very happy if you guys would join. We're going to talk about how do we feel when we're overwhelmed and what are some tools that we can use to take that overwhelm, understand what's behind it, and then get to clarity about what you should do to move on and get unstuck. It's going to be pretty awesome. It's going to be pretty practical. And I would love if people would join with practical examples because it's going to be interactive. And otherwise, what's the point? I'm not just going to talk generally. I'm going to try and help as many of you and as many of the people that are joining as possible.
And can I just get a quick show of hands? Has anyone here experienced overwhelm in the last few months?
How about the last few hours?
Or expecting to experience overwhelm in the next few days, weeks, or months?
It's Sunday night. Everybody's ready for it tomorrow. Except for those who
okay, love it.
5.
We're going to keep the room open. We'll keep the room open for about another 10 minutes. And just before we go, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Alysia. Happy birthday to you. Hooray!
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Beautiful.
And Alysia, do you come back to because the lag was terrible.
Perspective angle thing with Benjamin, or was this like the real?
I think it was just one of those Zoom backgrounds. You can download a special one where Benjamin is your background.
I am a creepy background.
And you found a way to make money. You can just like Zoom bomb people with your background.
Oh, you could sell Zoom backgrounds. You just creepily like.
No,
Come on, Alysia. Where is Sarah? You know, Sarah, Rachel. This many times with Adrian, you know, so it's really cute that he memorized
Yolanda, this. I think that Ben should just rent himself out, that he can go onto Zoom and just do this.
Hey guys, I don't know. I think she's not going to turn on our video, but the big B there, that's my sister in America, and it is. She got on this call at 6:30 in the morning, and it was daylight savings time, so it felt like 5:30 in the morning. So the B. Yep. See, she just did a thumbs up, and she has 3 children. So I'm gonna give you a round of applause, Brianna. That's my sister. Thank you.
Would love to see her though.
She gave you a heart. That's what you're getting. Maybe another time.
Yolanda, I don't know if I'd be switching on my camera at 6 o'clock in the morning. So
yeah, I have to do that tomorrow. So what do you want, Maria? That's a bad idea.
Excuse me, Yolanda. It's 6:50. That's a big difference.
And Maria, you were saying something before. What did I miss? You were saying something.
I was saying that you might want to listen again to like the happy birthday song when it's recorded, because for me the lag was terrible, so everybody was in a different place while singing. I'm sure that when it comes together, it's going to be beautiful.
No, it's atrocious, but yes. it's the thought that counts. And Alysia, a very happy birthday.
It was everybody connecting at one time, which is beautiful. All over the world. I think both continents. Thank you. And Jai, thank you so much. And the presenters, thank you so much for coming in and being a part of the presentation. That was really cool. I think that was very unique, and I appreciated that.
Thank you for the idea.
You're welcome. Sharing is caring.
Hey, beautiful humans, I'm out. Thank you so much. I will see you all soon.
Adios, amigo.
That positive energy, Ben.
Let's just do Ben stuff.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
All right, we're all going to say goodbye.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
I hope you come back.
Bye, all.
Bye. And Angelina, I don't think I've met you. So hi, Angelina. I've never met you before. And Golden Seed. I see Golden Seed. I don't know if that's your real name, but if it is, that's kind of cool.
When you want to meet her, you should come to my Wee Moon circle. So no, to the women's circle.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Alysia.
Yes.
I'm a creator, but thanks for sharing. I love it.
Wonderful. It's always nice to meet a fellow creator. So hopefully I'll see you in the WeChat group. We can talk some more.
Yes. Yeah. Bye.
Bye. And love the red. You matched the presentation for that.
Yeah.
Adrian, how's your arm? How is your poison going on?
Good. It's good. It's 99, 98% back.
Okay. And without antibiotics?
Yeah. And I told the doctor, hey, I'd rather go under a tree and pray to anyone. I'd rather eat the leaves than have antibiotics.
Yes.
I had antibiotics.
Brianna, my sister, she's a doctor. He had a spider bite. Apparently the spiders in Australia are vicious vampires. And 2 of the coaches who were on today, in the course of 1 week apart or something, or 2 weeks apart or something, got spider bites that ended them up in the hospital. So note to self, wear suits of armor when going to Australia.
How did this happen?
And I wouldn't have my...
recognize it? Is it like you're lying somewhere and then you maybe pushing her and then she attacks because she's afraid, or do you touch her, or how is something like that happening usually?
You assume it's a her, not a him. Maybe it's a him spider, a gay spider.
Usually it's the women which are the assholes in the spider world.
We have to have gender equality for our spiders, is what John's saying.
I wonder what happened to the spider, man. Is the spider alive after the bite?
Not after I deep fried him.
I'm sorry, I'm not like racist. It's just a matter of fact that the female spiders are the poisonous one. I'm sorry, it has nothing to do with
blood.
Gender discriminative, okay? Just don't make me a bad person, okay? I'm the one who's running a masculinity workshop here, okay? Anyway. And a
I just want
so
to thank Mr. Disney here as well. I like Mr. Disney coming here. I think it's maybe third time, and I like his enthusiasm. Thank you for coming in and sharing your lovely smile and having your camera on from the very start.
John, I'm going to reference you anywhere I say something about, you know, a gender spider. I'm going to reference you, whether it's a gay or something.
So anyway, can we answer my question? Adrian.
Was it a female spider? Did I eat him? I'm not sure what happened to it. I just woke up like that and it was like a bite. And, you know, Lynn's a nurse and she's like, it looks like a bite. And I'm like, I don't know, I can't quite see it, you know? I can't see.
So you woke up like that in your bed or what? Ooh,
yeah.
This is not a message I want to hear.
A different kind of intelligence. I remember being over in Guangzhou or something, and I was feeling just a little bit dehydrated, and Lynn said, you got food poisoning. And I'm like, just a little dehydration, get some water. About 5 or 7 hours later, I started throwing up and I had food poisoning. How the hell did she know? It's just some kind of intelligence that she has, you know, perhaps some other kind of intelligence. And no offense, I don't think she has a lot of cognitive intelligence, but she's got like a lot of some other kind of freaky intelligence where she just knows these things. And when she said a bite, and then the pharmacist said, oh, my brother had a thing just like that from a spider bite, a white spider. But no, I don't know if it was a girl or a boy, but yeah, it probably was a woman. I mean,
I feel like, honestly, the people who are still left here in the chat, we would have the funniest freaking like live stream show if we just went on and just picked like random topics out of a hat and just started talking between Yolanda and Tian would be quiet, and then she'd come out and just say something about how we're all being ridiculous. She'd be like the straight man in the whole thing. That would be and Disney would just be quiet and just like look at us and just shake his head like, I don't understand what's wrong with you people.
No, I think Kitty does like kick off an article tomorrow over her WeChat. You know, you might actually consider stopping the recording.
Yeah, good long time.
He's in the library. That's why he can't talk.
Are you in the library picking up girls, or are you like studying?
Stop the recording again.
By the way, I would like to say, Adrian, about this poison. Maybe it's an effect or result of connection. What do you think, Alysia?
You shouldn't connect randomly with everyone, Adrian. That's what he's saying.
I hope it hasn't affected all of his connections, because that would be really bad. My mind is going to bad places. Yeah, he's gonna have to delete this from the recording. He's gonna have to delete it. I don't know. I think that the spider wanted to connect with him, obviously in very intimate ways while he was sleeping.
It was probably doing like some of these first, and I rolled over and it went. Ah!
Or probably they wanted an NLP coaching, you know. He wanted an NLP coaching.
And he was probably all happy, or she, or shim, whatever, and it was, you know, doing its thing.
Gender neutral spider.
And it was doing its thing, and then you probably just snorted or something and moved. It was like, you don't love me anymore. Bite. I think that's how it went down. That's my bet.
Now it's get like a relationship drama Seriously.
Yeah, you violated the spider's vulnerability. I mean, really.
I'm so happy I'm living in China, you know. Adrian, we really need to work on my chicken dance spider again. I think that didn't make the deal. Not fully.
Yeah. We haven't done phobias. We haven't fully done phobias, so we might do an advanced session and do the phobias.
I would like to see about
to do the phobias. It's a combination of submodality changes, perceptual positions.
I'd also like to see something. I'd also like to see something on addictions, because a lot of people are addicted to a lot of things, and it would really help me to coach somebody who's addicted to smoking, who needs to stop very soon.
Hey, John, not just stop.
They all know I'm talking about you, John.
Why does that sound like an attack on someone? Why?
You're on mute. You're on mute. I can't hear you, John. And
not on mute.
Oh, you're not on mute. It was just the universe interceding.
Oh, Alysia is already starting to have some frequency that are not working anymore in her hearing, and apparently you're on that frequency, John. You should think about it.
When he starts giving me excuses about smoking, yeah, automatically, yeah, something happens with my hearing. Thank you. That's what it is, Yolanda. It's an impairment in my hearing. I'm going to use that. So anyway, something on addiction with NLP would be really good, because I think a lot of us are dealing with that, you know, because there's all kinds of addictions, and I think there's more of that behavior happening. Yeah, you, Adrian.
Yeah, I'll pick one up as well.
Yes, but don't make it too well, because I'm addicted to you guys, you know, so don't pick too many tools, otherwise our addiction will be gone. No.
That requires that.
That's also why I sent that picture in our student group as well. There's a picture in there that was about addictions, adding the numbers to increase addiction. Now, at least being addicted to personal development, you know, if anyone gets addicted to personal development or getting results, that's not such a bad thing.
Right.
Yes, that's
right. True. Which I guess we are, because we're still here at 8:15 talking to you.
And I'm anchoring that addiction to smoking. So there you go.
Oh
no, that's not no.
Doesn't work.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna make a move. And Alysia, I hope you had a wonderful birthday.
I did. Thank you so much.
Very well done.
Thank you.
Happy birthday again.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. I'll see all you on WeChat. Mwah.